This week's episode is a spin-off of last week's. Instead of the most popular cattle breeds in the U.S., we will talk the 10 most popular horses in the United States. With that, cue the intro. Welcome to Hashknife Hangouts. I'm Calen. My co-host with me is my father, Brandon, and our lovely addition of my mother, Lisa. If this is your first time seeing us, like, comment, and subscribe. You can also find us at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the respective handles below. And now to today's notes. Let's start with a disclaimer. The sources I used for this seem to be a little ad hoc. One is that like an ad hoc horse accessory store. The other is a horse pet blog. And the other one I'm just not even sure about, because honestly, it's really hard to find any good information on some quick search stuff for the top 10 horses in the US, believe it or not, which tells me actually a lot, because whereas the cattle, we were able to use, stats from who's selling to whom, what businesses are butchering and whatnot. These guys, when it comes to horses, you're just buying horses for your personal pleasure for the most part. And so there's not really any sort of statistic that goes with it. So with that, bear with the top 10 list. There are roughly 400 equine breeds in the world, but I could not find the exact number. In the US, they were saying things like it's roughly 350 breeds, so it floats. We will say 400 for sake of argument. Today, we'll count down the top 10 horse breeds in the United States, not the world. And first, with that, Mom, Dad, what's your guess at number one?
For numbers,
US?
most popular?
For the US, yeah.
Quarter horse.
It's going to be quarter horse. I don't think there's any question there.
All right. Well, I'll start off with some honorable mentions. The Missouri Foxtrotter, Welsh ponies. The Mustang is what they considered a breed. I completely disagree with that. Haflinger, Percheron, Standard Bred, and Belgian. So yeah, go ahead.
Oh.
See, and that's the issue sometimes. And we have an encyclopedia of horse breeds that your mom picked up, God, a couple,
Long time ago.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it in there has like one, which we run into the same thing. Palomino is a breed.
Yeah, it's a color.
Yeah.
Is it a color, or it depends on who you're talking to, right?
Well,
but you get
we'll
people
talk
that
about
also are breeding and crossbreeding and then naming it after themselves and trying to start a breed registry. So that there's a lot of that.
So how many mutt breeds are there out there?
Well, that's mutts are, there's some fine mutts.
There are a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could say a Walker is a mutt breed because it's a combination.
Well, most
right?
well, so is quarter horse.
Yeah,
most
right.
are.
True.
And let me actually do this real quick. I'll open all this stuff up and have it ready to go. Oh, did it really do what I think it did? Oh, the computer's being dumb. Sorry. All right. We're going to set this one up, and I'll ask you, what do you think is the number 10 horse in the United States?
Number 10.
Arabian.
Shetland
ponies. They are just ornery little buggers. I've rode one once.
Number 10 coming in at the Andalusian.
Yeah. No kidding.
Ooh, they're
according to my ad hoc sources.
Right.
Well, yeah.
So yeah,
take these with a grain of salt. Yeah.
Their necks are so pretty.
The Andalusian. So,
all that hair.
Yeah, and yeah. So they are very pretty. I'll stop sharing there real quick so I can actually read my notes and you don't have to read them yourself. It says number 10, Andalusian. This horse was first recognized in the 15th century. It was a war horse and as such prized by nobility. It has a long, thick mane and tail with a body that is strong and elegant. Andalusians are used today for dressage, driving, and saddle seat. So that's what
Saddle
the note
seat
was.
Mean you're just ride it?
I
or
think so.
Eventing 100 jumper type.
Okay.
Okay, that makes sense.
Didn't you train an Andalusian? Was it Yanni?
It's a Frisian.
Oh, he's Frisian. That was right.
But they look similar.
They do look similar.
The Frisians, usually their neck comes out higher.
Yeah, it's like almost like a chess piece.
Yeah,
almost, yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, typically.
He was pretty.
Oh yeah.
Pretty boy.
So, any comments on the Andalusians? Anything?
I just always thought they were elegant.
Well, they come from the Iberian Peninsula, right? Spain, Portugal area.
I think so, yeah, because it's pretty. Yeah. They're pretty familiar, or they're almost stereotypically aligned to Spanish culture, very much so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm surprised it's only the 14th or 15th century, the 1400s. That kind of surprises me a little bit. I thought it would be a little bit older than that, but
Yeah.
maybe something with a recognition. Again, source.
Right.
What's your source?
Number 9. What do you think that one might be?
Shetland pony.
Appaloosa.
So I'm gonna just tell you, Dad, don't do the Shetland pony. They didn't make the list.
I did
Because
this
I know what
last
you're gonna.
week with,
Yeah, I know what you're gonna do. You're
the
just gonna keep
Gillies.
throwing it out there. It's not the Shetland pony. It's a
Okay.
paint. Number 9
Oh,
coming in is the paint.
Okay.
With it says some consider this horse a colored breed, which
all right.
we all consider a color breed, but it
Mhm.
is really a true breed with a strict bloodline requirement and distinctive breed characteristics. This horse performs well in Western disciplines. Okay, because I think there are like American Paint Horse Association and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So that would make sense, I suppose.
When you got to ask yourself, when was
Sure.
that breed registry started?
Yeah.
Right. Good point.
Because I know when they did the quarter horse registry, they had a certain amount of time that you could submit your horse to be as a foundation type horse if it met these criteria. And there were some god awful horses that were registered. And as a joke, some people registered dogs. I mean, and that
Oh,
happens,
geez.
just people being
Yeah.
having too much time on their hands.
And I
Well,
think
why not,
paints
man?
are pretty, but one of the things that we always worried about was a lot of white on the face for sunburn.
Yeah, like
Yeah, there
eyes
you
and
go.
stuff. Yeah.
White,
Yeah, and the light eyes. Yeah,
Well,
there's some pretty pictures.
The unique thing about paints, though, and I'll let Dad kind of explain this too, is
Is there?
I was gonna say shield and bonnet.
Right.
That's kind of a cool part with the paints, and I would
Oh.
say if you can explain that real quick while I write some notes down.
Well, I mean, there's some. I mean, you can say there's cultural bias. Let's call it that. That a lot of guys, like my grandpas, wouldn't ride, and a lot of guys their age would not ride pintos, is what they were called then. When I was a kid,
Yep.
it was a pinto. I never heard of a paint, and they wouldn't ride them because they were Indian horses. They were not the color was not a breed; it was a color, but it was a mishmash. And talking about heterosis, you would think that would be good in there, but
Yeah.
I've ridden a lot of paint horses that just didn't have a lot of bottom to them. And I know people are going to criticize that I don't know what I'm talking about, but trust me, I've trained a significant number of lit up paint horses like that. There's a couple of them that have been outstanding and held up with any other horse, but for the most part, they're fine, they're good, and then they just got no bottom end, they just play out. So because of that, that was part of, and I didn't know that really until I started asking my grandpa, because we never had any paints or pintos on the place. I mean, just they didn't exist. Most people didn't. They were a rarity to see when I was a kid.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing many.
Yeah, and
As a
because
kid.
guys wouldn't ride them.
Interesting.
And I said, why? And he said, well, that's Indian tribes at the time could manage them. They were easily captured, could ride them. And then they just really didn't have a breeding program for them. They didn't do like the Appaloosa breed was done with the Nez Perce, which was a breeding program that they had to increase the value and the performance of the horse. So,
well, and they're one of the first cultures in the Western history to be recognized as actually going out and gelding horses to do like not only the management
Selective
but also to
breeding.
but do the selective breeding. Yeah.
right. So,
So when did the paint come about as far as what your research says?
Well,
Because I always thought of
me.
them as native horses.
well, the breed registry started, I'll bet you it was after the quarter horse registry. I would be surprised if it wasn't,
That's my guess.
which was 1941.
Oh, it was that recent.
Yeah, the quarter horses
I knew
started
it wasn't very
the
long.
official breed registry. Doesn't mean that they weren't breeding
Oh, right,
horses
right.
and making them, same as the walkers. Tennessee walkers are,
According to Wikipedia, it was
Uh-oh.
founded in 1965. So that would have been about 20 to 24 years after the American Quarter Horse Association.
right. Now our Tennessee walkers were 1939 as an official breed registry, but they were breeding walkers during
before.
colonial times.
Right.
So
Yeah, all of these. So
yeah,
they're just
so the hobsnobbery started at some point with all of them. Now that if you don't have a registered one, then they're not worth owning. But the shield and bonnet, to get to that with your
there it is.
paints.
there we go. Back
See
to
how-
the question.
See how I am focused and you two are not? Anyway, if you have a horse, and I've had a number of them didn't have both, but either a shield or a bonnet. And some of the tribes locally here, you had better watch your paints, because if they're lighter and they had a dark or a white, chest, and then one on the forehead, that means they had the shield on the front and a bonnet on the top. And those are big medicine to some tribes. And they won't steal your horse, but they'll sure as hell capture it out of your pasture. Yeah, capture horses. Indians capture horses. They don't steal them because they own them. So there's a whole cultural thing there that's like, hey, it's what it is. So you got to sometimes watch those horses. And I know some horses that have been stolen, captured, because they had unfortunate or fortunate markings, whichever way you want to put that.
Yeah. All right. Number 8. Do you have a guess on this one? And it's not a Shetland pony.
Welsh pony.
Appaloosa.
There she goes.
Okay, Mom's gonna get it at some point. Dad is
she will.
so far off. Coming in at number 8 is our beloved Tennessee Walkers. This gated breed is a regular pick for riders with knee or back problems due to the smoother ride. Its smooth gait offers a running walk that makes it comfortable for riding long distances. That was the small blurb that they provided on the.
For how long distances?
Long distances. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
More than a short.
But the problem with Tennessee Walkers, as I share this picture, I guess, is that it also shows some of the issues that we have, and we've had a conversation about this, and I'll write that down. About the issues with like soaring horses and padding, and adding the things to their feet, because you'll see the first thing that comes up, and if you search up Tennessee walking horse, is the blocks on the hooves,
weighted shoes.
Yeah.
So because then they go on your picture over here clear to the right.
The big white one.
Next to him.
Oh yeah.
You see they're picking their feet up abnormally high because they're doing it with weighted shoes.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is not natural.
Exactly.
Any way, shape, or form, that is not natural. So anyway, now if you look down here.
Our kids are heftier, for one.
They are. And actually, I'll stop sharing for a second and I'll show, because I have that one open too. It's actually from our sale barn on the website. You'll see how much bigger he is compared
look at the bigger bone structure in the legs, and they've been mistaken for quarter horses on an occasion.
They have, because they're a little hefty. But that's
you're looking more like a quarter horse there because of that. I mean, like Mom says, they've been mistaken for them, because that's the way we want: substantial bone, good muscle wrapped around it, so that they can do ranch work, packing, driving, whatever we need to do.
Any comments on Tennessee Walkers other than we've got
in
them?
General? I'm biased and I don't have as much experience with horses as Dad, but their disposition in general is so good that's what's nice for someone like me who's new to the horse world. You don't have to worry about the raunchiness as much. Of course, that can be environmental, but like I said, I rode a Shetland one time. That was enough.
Ranking number 98 on the list.
Gosh, he was just a stubborn.
Well, we said there's 400.
Cousin.
We said there's 400 breeds, so maybe it's 399.
Yeah.
And
if you buy one for your kids, it's considered child abuse.
And quarter horses, I've ridden a few of those, and most of the ones I was familiar with were pretty old and ready to die, so they were pretty laid back.
Safe.
But it seems like a lot of other horses end up having to be considerably older before they get the laid back nature,
or just a lot more time on them.
Yeah. So that's what I like about them.
And
they don't just come in black. A lot of people think they just come in black, and we have a variety of colors.
Yeah.
Now you said something about the disposition. Do you think that's because we have tried to breed the horses to be better dispositioned, or maybe this is a better question for Dad? Is this an actual
I think it's
breed
both.
thing?
I think it's both.
Partially it's a breed thing. But don't get me wrong. I've trained some walkers that were a little wiggy in the head too.
Oh yeah,
I
absolutely.
think you're riding an Arab, or an Egyptian Arab. But as a broad brush stroke, they tend to be a little bit more laid back, they're more of a cold blood where they're just, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll settle right down. They're not like quarter horses have more of that flightiness to them as a general rule. Now there's some really good, the same way the other direction, quarter horses, even some Arabs that are like way laid back, and yeah, hey, I'm with you. This is good. I'm just kind of a chilled down version of crazy. And I'm not saying that all these other breeds are crazy. They're not, but they're just some are more flighty than others.
Right.
And I think that's partially is the selective breeding early on, but it's also just a trait from people wanting what we want and being good about their selective breeding.
Yeah. The next one, number 7. I'm not even gonna let you guess because you're gonna miss it. I completely disagree with this because I don't think it's a breed. It's the pony at number 7. And it just says a popular, cute horse that's known for its shorter stature. They're definitely less intimidating, which makes them a solid choice for those learning to ride. There are many different breeds, and compared to other horses, they have proportionally shorter legs, wider barrels, meaning their backs, thicker necks, and shorter heads. So the problem I have with this is that technically a pony, most people might think a Shetland pony or a mini pony or something like that, but technically a pony is anything under 15 hands. So that's not, to me, a breed. That is much like the paint, other than the paint made their own association. To me, pony is a descriptor, not a breed.
Well, and there are some breeds that they have to meet pony at maturity stature by having different height requirements, and some of them are like 14.2.
Yeah.
Not even 15. A 14.3 hand horse is, to me, not a pony.
Right.
That's just a small horse.
Just a smaller horse.
I think that's the definition for pony, is it not? Let me double check, because
it's height. It's height of the shoulder and kind of, well, okay, what is a cob? You probably don't know this.
A what?
A cob.
Well, that's the thing that's left over after you eat all the corn.
Or the corn that's on it. A cob is it's a small driving horse.
Okay.
Oh, your horse could be a cob.
Yeah, not him.
I mean, you look at this, it says pony. I don't know what the source is. It's just a generic Google definition. It says on the right-hand side, if you type in pony definition, it has a picture of actually what looks like a Percheron, maybe an Appaloosa, and then like a mini and a Shetland. And it goes, a pony is a small horse. Depending on the context, a pony may be a horse that is under an approximate or exact height of 14.2 hands high, withers, or a small horse with a specific conformation and temperament. So
temperament's important on some of these deals, but you've got all kinds of breeds. You got Welsh ponies, Shetland ponies, Icelandic ponies, which is a gated horse. They've got there's lots of different types of ponies, and
we'll share what people
really it's about height. It's not about a pony's a pony.
For pictures.
You may have a mix.
Oh my gosh, look at how cute they are.
A little unicorn pony. Didn't realize they had a unicorn pony.
Yeah, those ones come right out of I was gonna make a smart comment.
My Little Pony. Oh, look at the little mini ones down there.
See, this is a problem. I like the little now she wants one.
And look at how fuzzy he is. He's got a hair.
Get that off of there. Off.
Look at how pot bellied.
You don't control the computer. I'd control the computer.
Thanks a lot. Oh my God.
I love the luscious locks on this one right here on the far left. Next to the unicorn.
Gorgeous.
But there are ponies, nondescript breeds that are just pony. Yeah. But it's not necessarily it's a breed. It's because it's this height or a certain if you have dwarfism in an animal, would it be considered a pony? My answer is yes, if it meets that under that like 14.2, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. And here's really where I should say, I really have an issue with these sources, because both I had 3 sources, and I'll put the links below if people really want to look at them. They're not great sources, trust me, but
where can you get better sources?
I don't know. They looking at, because normally I'm able to look at some good articles for our conversations every week and look into, left and right side, kind of in the middle, typically left and right being, what are the cattlemen and beef producers saying? And then what are the environmentalists saying? and that's really how I kind of get the spectrum and we produce the argument. But in this situation, just in general, the sources sucked, and I don't like having bad sources, but it was also kind of the only thing that they had. So I was like, okay, I'll take it for what it is. But the biggest issue I have with them is, for the most part, across all three, the top 10 or top 15 animals were roughly the same. So I was like, okay, I think I can get this. Definitely the number one was the same, which, yeah, it makes sense. But the explanations to things like Mustang, paint, and
Right.
pony, to me, have never been breeds. Now, okay, sorry,
Right.
paint people, if you're really telling me that you guys are a breed, I apologize. But in my humble opinion, I don't think those are breeds, because you're literally using descriptive nature of,
Mhm.
Well,
of the
and you
animal
can
to,
have a paint in any breed.
right. But more importantly, you can also have a Mustang that's in any breed, because what is it? It's a feral horse.
Right, true.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
So it, and then again, what we just talked about with the pony, it's a height thing, maybe a stature thing in the terms of conformation with the head or the shoulders, and that's where
But
I really have heartburn with this top
Well,
10. Sorry,
and-
people, I'm producing something I don't like. I hope you enjoyed the show.
And then the other part is that if you looked at the horse association or horse breed sites, I don't know that they would do comparisons necessarily. And then it might be very biased too, because that's not what
Well,
the
they-
associations do.
they want
is
their own specific.
They're promoting theirs,
Right.
which that's their purpose,
Right.
right? So it's an interesting question, because who would evaluate that?
But,
Yeah, and
but,
I
but
guess to
again,
drive, well, sorry, just a second. I would say, to drive home the point that I'm trying to make too, is that would be the equivalent of saying gated horses are a breed. No, there's
Right.
multiple breeds within that generic
Gated,
descriptor.
correct.
Yeah.
You're not, but
And
sorry,
and
go
that's
ahead.
where that's what I was going to say. There's lots of draft breeds,
Yep.
and you call
Yeah.
it, oh, there's a draft horse. What breed is it?
Right.
I'm not exactly
I know it's
sure.
big, it's
Right.
bulky.
Right. I mean,
It's
some of
pretty.
them are pretty easy to spot, but it's the same way as was what I brought up with the cob. A cob is nothing more than what you described, but it's a smaller, stout driving pony,
No.
driving horse, not necessarily a pony. Now, those ones that you drove at the Dunroven Ranch last summer, I would not consider them cobs. They are
Those are
small.
ponies.
They're ponies because they don't have the thickness of a cob.
Because they're
Right.
really just a mini, in a sense that they are
Yes.
a normal sized, proportionally sized horse
Proportional.
that's just in a smaller stature. That's it.
Yes. Yes.
It's almost like
They're
it's a
sm-
colt that never quite grew up.
Right. Well, and they're a breed. I think they're Haflinger and Belgian. Were they? No,
Maybe. I don't
The
know.
Haflinger is right.
they're part Haflinger, but they're small. They're just miniature horses, not miniature, but just
Small.
proportionally the same. They're not thicker of barrel. That chest is not overly thick or a thick neck. They just look like a shrunk down normal size horse.
Yeah.
So anyway, enough to beat that to death.
But yeah, it's a tough thing to find, I think, reliable sources.
Well, and again, we talked about this.
And
horse,
very subjective, very.
there you go. The horse community, everybody's an expert and everybody else is an idiot. So
Link above.
there you go.
I'll put a card in there. Yeah,
I
I have definitely an opinion of the horse community, having grown up in it. But number 6, any guesses?
Arab.
Appaloosa.
Mom's got it at
There you go.
Appaloosa.
I get it eventually.
Coming in at number 6, the Appaloosa, or you might hear it affectionately known as the Appy.
It's an appy.
This colorfully spotted horse was developed, like we said earlier, by the Nez Perce Native American tribe in the Pacific Northwest. If you don't know the Nez Perce, they are most well known for Chief Joseph and his fleet away from the Union cavalry during, I think it was 1861, if I remember correctly. Sorry, no, 1867.
7, I think.
I think it was just after the Civil War.
The
It's
Civil
part
War.
it's part thoroughbred, quarter horse, and Arabian, and it's often used as a stock horse or simply for pleasure. And with that, I'll share the screen for the picture of our beloved Appies, and that's what they are. They're typically thicker. When I think of an Appy, I think of a thicker kind of a
Well-
like this one right here, this big boned to the far right.
Yeah, the Appy physical characteristics for the breed standard has changed a lot from the time I was a kid until now. So that shows you how people's breeding standards or the association breeding standards can change over time, or that's the direction people take them. And so when I was a kid, they were a thick, stocky, looked basically like a lit up quarter horse.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know. I wish I had some pictures or saw some pictures of what
That's an unusual
a lot of
color
them looked. Yeah, it is. They look like a red roan with a
with a
spot,
happy
but,
butt.
Talking about this one.
yeah. I'd
So
like
I
to
think
see
that's a
what.
painting. Looking at it from, I know you guys have a smaller screen,
Oh.
but
Yeah.
I think that's a painting. Yeah.
Oh yeah, look at some of the lighting in the background.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. But I would like to see a lot of pictures of some of the old horses that the Nez Perce rode.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that
Oh,
body
yeah.
confirmation because
That
you know
would be.
there's the old joke. Why did the Nez Perce ride Appies into battle? It's so they'd be good and mad by the time they got there. You know,
Yeah.
and then you know there's lots of disparaging remarks about Appies, but
You've trained quite a few.
I've trained a number of Appies.
We have friends
had-
that
yeah.
really, really like their apples.
Well, here's the thing. Appies are,
They're
I've
tough.
always experienced a lot of toughness. I mean, they've got some bottom end to them, but can be a little bit stubborn at times to train. However, my argument is if they're such bad horses, then how was it that Chief Joseph was able to move 200 men, women, and children? And these are older women and children and young or older women and older men and young kids and outmaneuver the 3 divisions of the U.S. cavalry for
In the dead of winter.
how long? Yeah. If they're that bad of horses, how did that happen?
Yeah.
That
No,
wasn't,
I
That wasn't
agree.
the case.
This is a very famous war chief that fought with Chief Joseph. If anybody's familiar, Chief Joseph is actually this individual right here, where my cursor's at. But Chief Looking Glass was the war
Looking
chief.
Glass. Yep.
And
that horse
this is a
looks
horse, and
stockier.
that's why I wanted to pull it up because I knew a picture of this, and so I wanted to show it to Dad in case he could kind of see it. Maybe this is easier. No, it doesn't make it easier, unfortunately.
There's one down to the right. Oh, and now I don't see it.
Well,
anymore.
and again, you have to have context to this. What time of the year was it? No, let's put it this way. These horses were moved a lot and they were ridden
Good shape.
hard a lot.
Yeah.
So what time of the year was this? How much work had that horse done? What was the nutrition like?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of those things, but if you look at the tail end of that horse, look at the hip, it's fairly rounded.
Yeah.
He looks like a shorter horse. I don't
Kind of
know
like my hip.
how big
fairly
Looking Glass
rounded.
was, how big a man he was. Beautifully done. And yeah, but you know what I mean? There's a lot of context there that I can't tell.
Right.
Yeah.
But but one thing about it, look at the head dress on that horse. There's not a lot there.
Right.
You know, it looks like maybe just a small war bridle on him.
Yeah.
So I would like to see many pictures side by side, you know, and with some context to them.
Well, those
So,
might be hard to do too, because the
Not many
process
photos.
of the process of assimilation and trying to get rid of native tribes after
right.
the Indian Wars, they did a pretty good job of sanitizing American history with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So with that, I'll get to number 5. What do you think that is?
Morgan.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, Morgan. Good job. They're relatively small, but they're popular riding and driving horses because of their versatility. Morgans are known for strength, elegance, and ancestry that traces back to the foundation sire figure. I think that's if that's maybe his name, or maybe they're
Must be his
referring
name.
to a picture. I'm not sure. It's one of the oldest breeds in America, with its beginnings dating to the earliest of New England days. So with
Yes,
that, I'll bring up
a guy named Justin Morgan.
here you go. This is what Morgans kind of look like.
Yeah. I always think they're so pretty.
Now,
I've always thought of Morgans as darker too. Now that I'm thinking about that,
And
I've
they
never thought
are.
of
They
them as
tend to
really
be.
being sorrel or lightened up at all.
Yeah. Again, these breed standards change over time too.
Now, if you look in the lower left-hand corner of your screen, that's probably one of the foundation guys there.
Right.
Because that's
Yeah.
a painting from back then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
that's what
seen
I
that
would guess.
before. But look how thin the body is in comparison to some you see today.
So there's a lot of Morgan in our Tennessee Walkers, right? There's a lot of Morgan in the quarter horses. The quarter horse breed is basically the three, just like you were talking about, thoroughbred, Morgan, and then they crossbred back to a draft horse, Norton, and that's where you get that large
Stocky.
muscle, heavy, yeah, and then they take that and then back to your thoroughbred Morgan cross again, just keep breeding the size back down, but retain some of those characteristics that the draft had, like that heavy muscle and a fast twitch muscle with the Morgan and thoroughbred. So the Tennessee Walker, for instance, same thing, thoroughbred, Morgan, and then cross that with a Narragansett Pacer or a gaited horse in order to get the gait and the body build to provide for the gaited horse. So you got two breeds that are using three different horses, and of those two, the two different breeds, two of the three horses are the same breeds. And now you outcross, one goes to a draft and the other one goes to a gaited.
So it all comes back to they're all related.
In a way, or partially, yeah. But you're looking to breed and crossbreed for whatever versatility or whatever your desirable characteristics, yeah, exactly, that you want. So it's just an interesting thing, and people don't realize, they think, well, they're completely different. Well, no, they're not. When you look at them, and then of course a Missouri Foxtrotter is an offshoot of the Tennessee Walkers or the Rocky Mountains.
Right.
So, you got all of these people again wanting to make their own breed.
Yeah. We'll go to the next one, which I'm not familiar with at all. I've heard of it before, but I'm not familiar. So do you have a guess at number 4? Okay.
Mangalora.
If I were to, based off of the, we'll say this.
There's no way that's going to be in the 300s.
It's warm blood. And warm blood, is that an actual breed, or is that a descriptor like what we had a discussion about earlier?
That's what I wonder.
Again, that's a type. That's as like some of your hot bloods, like Arabs. Your warm bloods are like some of your hunter jumper, your eventers.
Okay.
Large, small horses.
So let me say the description then, because that makes sense now, because it says this group includes the quarter horse and several other light breeds such as Hanoverians, Trakeners, Cleveland Bays, Canadians, and more. These horses are known for their prowess as sport horses because they tend to be larger boned. And
So here's my question. If they say it's a breed, warm blood, and then they give the name of breeds as a description, is that really a breed?
Yeah.
That's
Dutch warm blood. Now, which one is which? So a warm blood is again the same as draft. It's a
category
or a category of horse. That to me,
category based on use.
Yeah,
right?
because look, you've got Dutch warm bloods, you got American warm bloods, and like you say, now the Trakener, I don't know that. I don't know that Hanoverian, Bavarian, and Hanoverian. Yeah, those are all I know those. But
somebody braided their hair. That looks nice.
The horse did that.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
that'd be a little tough with those.
No thumbs on the hooves.
No thumbs. Yeah.
So again, I don't buy that as a breed. It's a category.
Pretty leggy.
So there you are.
Yeah, maybe we can discuss more about the honorable mentions when we come down to the final one, because getting more and more irritated with how they're using the descriptors. I get it. Looking at some of those pictures.
Still subjective. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it isn't just our opinion. When you look at and think a little bit critically, like Mom said, if you've got a warm blood, but then you've got all these breeds within the warm blood, is it a breed? No, it's a category.
Well, it's almost like, is it the what is it? It's the when you're talking the descriptor words for Latin terminology for animals, you use like the family type and the
genus species.
The genus species. Yeah, like that's how I kind of see it. Is it's almost like maybe that's the genus species in a sense to, obviously horse is like it's the species.
Right.
Got it. But like the subset, it would almost be like it's here's your warm blood and stuff like that.
Well, you could categorize that all the way up to kingdom.
Yeah.
Kingdom, phylum.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
It was, because I learned that.
It was for their evolution too. Anyway.
Okay.
We digress.
Number 3.
It was number 3.
What do you think it is?
Arab.
Quarter horse.
Close. No, you guys are close. No, it's thoroughbred.
Oh,
Oh.
thoroughbred. Oh, in the east, I think there's a lot more thoroughbred than the
Well,
west.
also yes, because why there's a lot of similarities with the East Coast with England and
England.
Right.
France, and there's a lot of thoroughbreds over there. So this
Yeah.
horse for its racing abilities. They sprint, jump, and are regularly used in hunting. I don't know about the hunting part.
Mhm.
That surprised me.
Hunting and jumping,
Um,
like fox hunting, that
yeah.
kind of thing.
Interesting. When they perform anything, they
Sport
do it with
hunting.
maximum exertion. So they tend to have high accident rates and health problems. Millions of thoroughbreds exist around the world today. Okay, well, let me preface this with they have high accident rates and health problems. Okay, why? Do we want to critically think about this for a second? Because here's where my issues come in with the thoroughbred community, because the thoroughbred community races horses to win races.
Right.
And what they will do is they will breed, just like we breed to make our horses heavier and stockier to do work. They make them lighter and thinner so that they can go faster. And that's what breaks them down. It's not the horse itself, it's the people who are facilitating their genetic makeup.
Right.
But
More
whatever.
muscle with less frame.
Yes.
So look at that fifth horse on the top there. He looks like a greyhound.
Yeah.
That
Oh, wow.
sorrel.
Yeah.
And then look at the one down on the right, far right on that middle row. There's a horse, a thoroughbred with some substantial muscling to him. Still has that thoroughbred look. I mean, he's thin, barrel, but there's a lot of power in that horse
A
too.
lot of power.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
one on
Yeah.
the,
I think they are a beautiful horse. They suck to ride because your horse will constantly try to take the saddle and make it go backwards. So you have to have a
Well-
breast collar.
yeah, they're built like a wedge towards the rear. So
Gosh.
That's
that
true.
was the biggest issue I had with the thoroughbred that I had to deal with. But
well,
they're
and
good
and that was I think the one you dealt with was a thoroughbred that was just raised. It was not a horse that was a track failure.
no,
And,
yeah.
and when you take a horse like that, I mean, now you're trying to rehabilitate that horse's mind, because all of their whole life up to that point has been all about
Go fast.
going very fast
Yeah.
and to the left,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah, that'd be hard to overcome
it is. It's you're rehabilitating, really. I think, in my opinion,
because they were trained to do that. Now you have to train them to do other
and
things.
not
Yeah.
do that, right?
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
would be hard.
I think it's the same like any other athlete, though. That athlete's been doing that for their whole life, and now they have to
Right.
do something different, right? You have to.
That's all
somehow-
they know. Correct.
But
Yeah, it was tough for me to rehab.
You are a thoroughbred, honey. You
the
are a
problem,
thoroughbred.
the problem that I have with that particular
By
comment, though, is that they say they tend to have high accident rates and health problems.
Right.
I don't think that's on the breed. Okay, you can say it's on the breed because it's been bred into that
that-
breed,
it-
but that's not.
Environmental conditions,
Right.
maybe.
How are they being used, and what have
Yeah.
they been? Yeah, exactly. It's not the horse, but let the horse go. What are they going to do?
Right.
Yeah.
As little as possible.
Yeah.
They're going to
Well,
graze. They're going to walk. They're going to play a little bit, but we're asking them to do things, particularly like you said in the racehorse industry, where we're making them lighter boned, faster, and something is going to have a weak link to it, and it's usually a bone, long bone,
Yeah.
Well, and the other problem too is
or hoof,
I mean,
issues.
this last year also proved it, as well as the drug issues that they have with these animals. They're
Oh.
pumping them full of drugs
Yeah.
as well, and that also creates potential for health issues
Right.
and
Right.
physical issues as well. But number
Yeah.
2, what do you think it is?
Too bad.
Arab.
Quarter horse.
Arab's not on the list, is it?
It is an Arab. It says,
Oh, there
it
we
says
go.
Arabian. So we need to probably
Polish or
clarify that there's-
Egyptian?
Exactly. We need to clarify that because it just says Arabian. But I'll start off with one can trace the lineage of many horses back to the Arabian, as it's one of the oldest breeds around and one of the most popular in the world. Arabian horses have a distinctive look, refined wedge-shaped head, a broad forehead, large eyes, large nostrils, and small muzzles. As such, they are easy to spot. And yes, they are, because I don't think they have the best looking head in the world.
Now,
But
here's the
we
thing.
will share the pictures.
Well, now here's something, I don't know if you really know, but one of the things that our Arabs can brag about is kind of like Vikings. They have influenced every horse breed in the world.
Their head is very distinctive.
Well, they
I
like
always
that
think of it as like
bottlenose.
a dished head. You can kind of see here. It's
Yep.
almost
Mhm.
dished up here. I don't
Yeah.
like the look personally, but I can appreciate it, I guess.
Well, and there are a lot of people that's what they like about them too, is that head.
And they
that
bring their
elegant-
head up. They
elegant
have a
look.
high head.
Yeah.
Now, you said what kind of Arab? Do you want to explain that? Because there are two very different Arabs when it comes
Well,
to this breed.
the Egyptian Arab, and it's very cultural too. I mean, it's not unlike our friends to the south who want a horse that has mucho brio. We've talked about that. They want them.
Yeah.
They want them.
Lots
I
of
mean,
energy.
lots of energy, lots of energy. Where the Egyptian Arabs, and I am no Arab expert by any means. I just know enough to be very dangerous. And that is, the Egyptian Arabs are a little hotter than and finer bone, thinner of stature than your Polish Arabs, which seem to be much more laid back.
Environmental temperature.
I think it's breeding.
Probably.
I think it's
They
partially, yeah.
They do better in
Mhm.
those climates,
Right.
with those feature
Right.
differences.
And the Polish tend to be a little heavier body, heavier muscled, not quite as refined, but also not quite as flighty for the most part, as a general rule. I mean, again, you've got variation in all of those, or both of those. So the one thing about the Arab, extreme intelligence, very, very smart horses, almost too smart, almost mule smart.
Depends
Which can
on the
be a
horse.
problem for a lot of people. No, that's right. But as a
my
broad brush,
personal experience has not been that.
yeah, but you didn't have a typical Arab that you were dealing with. I mean, most Arabs are very, very intelligent, super intelligent.
Yeah, I've to clarify to anybody who's questioning that, I've handled one Arab.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You're basing it off of one experience, so yeah,
right.
Unfair to the horse.
And they are as tough as Appy. I mean, that toughness is there. So
I could concur with that with the one experience that we had, because he was the one that at the end of the day when we were up in the mountains, he was still like, "Hey, let's keep going. It's like 20 plus miles. Like,
dude, let's take a nap." Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
All right, number one. What do you think?
Quarter horse.
It's quarter horse.
Yeah, you guys said it from the beginning. It's the quarter horse. It's actually, of all the horses, this probably is the most symbolic for
the American West.
Yeah. It's most popular breed in the US, and with good reason. These beautiful animals are agile, athletic, and perfect for nearly all levels of riders. They're also useful whether you're simply riding for fun or competing at the county fair. This quarter horse also has the largest breed registry in the world. I can believe that.
Wow.
It's very similar to, I think, the Black Angus Association.
Right.
But I think the thing to point out too is, here's what they look like. They can come in all sorts of colors. They're very, very, very similar conformationally to our horses. But the thing is, why are these guys so symbolic of the American West? It's because they are considered technology in the sense that everybody said you had the ability to go faster at a trot or quick spurts of energy if you needed to, as like a getaway vehicle, right? So the quarter horse is named quarter horse because they can go really fast in a quarter of a mile. And if you need to get away from the cops, I guess there's your answer, right? So
well, here's the thing though. I mean, when you're talking about settling the American West, was not done on a quarter horse.
No.
The American West right now, Western US has more quarter horses, yes, but when this country was settled, it was not settled with quarter horses. There were some breed variations, but it was primarily a lot of your standard bred, saddle bred, gaited horses. Teddy Roosevelt, one of his favorite horses was, and he preferred one that he called had a single foot. A single foot's nothing more than like a running block. Slightly different. It's slightly different, but for our conversational purposes.
I think the difference though is that you're talking about settling versus where most people think the Wild West, they think they think cowboys and outlaws,
Yes.
for whatever reason, the quarter horse was a very popular breed, and that's where that comes from, is the fact that
I agree.
Quarter horse was popular with people like the James
Butch and
Young gang,
Sundance.
Butch and Sundance Kid, Billy the Kid, stuff like that.
But the way Butch Cassidy ran his group, and when they were making escapes, they didn't do it on one horse. They had series of horses staged where they could a relay, and you can outrun anybody with a fresh horse, even with your ponies. Well, maybe not, but so yeah, trained a lot of quarter.
Interesting though, what they came up with, and if the 3 sites were very similar too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the other, and we'll go back up here again. Honorable mentions being Missouri Foxtrotter, the Welsh ponies, Mustang, Haflinger, Percheron, Standardbred, and Belgian. And then this other one that I pulled up today, they said, we'll just go through here again real quick. 10 were draft breeds. So you're talking Belgians, Clydesdales, Percherons, those heavier bone big boys.
Yeah.
Gated breeds. Again, we're talking categories. We're not talking a breed. Grade horses. Well, what's a grade horse? It's just it's a mutt.
Hasn't been registered to mutt. Yeah, exactly.
Ponies again, warm bloods again. Morgan, there's your first actual breed in that list.
Well, then how about your cold bloods?
Well, yeah.
Does it even list cold bloods?
What are cold bloods? Like that, I've never heard of cold bloods. What are?
Oh, you've heard of cold bloods because our horses tend to be your gated stuff. It tends to be. I shouldn't say that because some of your like Pasofino, Peruvian Paso, those are going to be more towards a warm blood, but cold blood meaning more like our Tennessee Walkers. Those kinds of almost like a draft influence, but it's not necessarily a cold blood either. So and then there's a challenge for people. Look up cold blood.
Okay, I'll do that in just a second. The on here it says the list that I just gave, Appaloosa was 6. On the website I was just looking, Appaloosa was 4, replacing the warm blood on the list that I was talking about. But then the top 3 are the exact same: 3 thoroughbred, 2 Arabian, number 1 coming in at quarter horse.
And that's probably numbers based. I'm sure.
I would guess.
Yeah.
But
because
you said
they're probably looking at breed
cold
registries. Yeah. What a cold blood horse. Let's see what their description is on that. You think of a hot blood like an Arab, like cold blood.
I hate this. Nobody has any good information on horses. Learnabouthorses.com. This does not look like a reliable source, but hey, we're going to read it. Cold blood horses are much heavier and slower than the wild and high-strung hot blood horses. The term cold bloods is usually used to describe draft that is large, bred specifically for heavy, tiring labor. Here's some of your breeds. You've got Ardennais.
Never heard of it.
Sorry, French people. That's what it looks like.
Ardenois. So it probably doesn't. It surrenders a lot. I don't know.
The Belgian draft, the Bolinois. I don't know French. The Breton, Breton, Clydesdale, Frisian, Italian heavy draft, Jutland, Noriker, Percheron, Norman Cobb. There we go. North Swedish, the Schleswig, the Shire, South German, and the Vladimir heavy draft. So those are those
draft
are
breeds.
Cold
bloods. Yeah. But they have you think about when you think of warm blood, hot blood, cold blood, you think about the state of mind of the horse.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to put that. Yeah.
And think of it that way, and that'll give you an idea what they are or how they tend to think and react and what it is. That's why your large framed, large boned eventers and hunter jumpers, a lot of those are warm bloods. They're tall, a lot of times
energetic,
lean, and they'll go, but they're fairly laid back in most cases too, and other cases not so much.
All right, having done the top 10 here, what is probably your favorite horse of all time, other than we're biased to Tennessee Walkers, but if you were to if you could not have a Tennessee Walker, what would be probably the horse that you said, oh, sight unseen, I'll just go with that one?
Well, it'd be kind of cheating a little bit, but it'd probably be either a Missouri Foxtrotter or a Rocky Mountain, because they're offshoots of the Tennessee Walker with the same characteristics.
Yeah.
Really, my favorite one is the one that's between my knees that's not giving me any trouble at the time, that I've got it completely trained, but usually they're gone by then, you know?
How about you, Mom? What's your favorite?
Well, I have such limited experience, but it'd probably be like a Clydesdale.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Get one of those
Doesn't
big boys.
surprise me.
I never ride him, but I just have him as a giant
Be
pet.
a big pet. Yeah.
Yeah, we get to start driving more and more here.
So do you know
shortly,
how
and
many
that's gonna be-
times I've asked Dad, wouldn't it be fun to have a Clydesdale? And here a couple of years ago, I don't remember what was going on. There was a horse show.
We were dating.
No, well, I mean, this is
Different
most
story.
recent. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like, they had Clydesdale yearlings. Oh, was it a raffle? And Dad's like, don't you dare buy that. We'd probably win it. And I'm like, oh, that'd be
They
awesome.
only
And-
stay that size for like 2 months, though.
Right.
well, I know, but they were about, the colt was about the size of your horse as like
Yeah.
a yearling.
So he was only eating 50 pounds a day instead of the required 75 pounds a day.
But wouldn't that
4
be
months
cool?
later.
A Clydesdale? And then I don't know if I'd want to
Oh,
get on top of him because that's a long way, but he
Well,
could sure.
being on top of him though would be the hard part because you're doing the splits up there. They got such
Yeah.
a wide
Well,
back.
And what
Yeah.
were some of your early war horses?
They're like
you know, there was-
Percherons and lighter,
Yeah.
probably Belgians and stuff like that. Yeah.
For the most part, for like your early time, like your knights, you know, but they had somebody to help them up there. They ever got dehorsed, done.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lights
Well,
out.
it's the
You know-
equivalent of
But you
today's
al-
tank because if it gets
probably-
Right.
demobilized, it's very hard
Yeah.
to.
But you also had war horses like the Lepizaners that are
Right.
not a draft
Not
horse, but very
And
intelligent.
Percheron might not be a bad one because you'd get on him a little easier, but.
Okay, she's still on. We're not getting a draft horse. So when
You
we
know,
were
and it
we were
seems
dating.
as though I've asked about this at least multiple times a year.
Have you
And
seen Flax?
after
You
this many
practically have a
years,
draft horse.
well, I know, but after this many years, don't I deserve?
No, you
a
don't.
little team
No,
of,
you do not.
of light
Mom,
draft
You have
horses.
not been a good girl to
Mom, I
deserve
think
that.
it's not the horse that we need to get. It's the Highland cow that we need. We need one of those.
No,
Oh,
God, you guys.
There's some down the road too.
Calen,
I know
knock it
people.
off.
I know people. We could get a
Yeah,
couple.
I know. So
And they'd be totally different herds and we could create our own little Highlander
welcome.
herd.
okay, we're going to college and dating. Had nowhere for a horse, and your grandpa would have killed me if I brought a draft horse home. But we were at the fair and watching a draft horse pulls,
Oh,
and they
That
were
was pretty
raffling off and I think it was a little Clydesdale
might have
there
been a little
too.
yearling, yeah.
And I'm
I'd
like,
forgotten about that one.
and she goes, "Oh my God, we could have a little." No,
It's
no,
not little.
I had to
All I
No.
hear is no. That's all I hear. No.
appropriately so.
I have great ideas. No. Please, Brandon, can we do this? No. It's just like no discussion. This is not a
Some
democracy.
things are so direct. Some things are so ridiculous. We do not need to vote on them.
Wait till
Thanks, Calen.
I
Thanks a
show
lot.
up with a draft horse
No.
someday in the horse trailer.
No.
Oh, wouldn't he just have a fit? And woohoo.
All right, with that, I'm going to steal Dad's line. We appreciate everybody being on. Please continue to comment, like, subscribe, and until we can pay you better, thanks until you're better paid.